In the 1980s, Master Mishiro, known for at the time in Blackmagic M66, Appleseed, and Dominion Tank Police, created Ghost in the Shell, a cyberpunk manga that went against cyberpunk type. It actually, instead of focusing more on machines, questioned where the machine ended and the human soul began. Its main character, Motoko Kusanagi, was so cyberized, as a matter of fact, that the only thing left of her that was human was her soul, or ghost, if you will. But the focus of the main plot was the puppet master, who could control people at whim, so the question was where the ghost ended and the programming began. The movie was so popular, both here in the States and in Japan, that a decade or two later, it inspired an anime known as Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, and a second season Standalone Complex Second Gig. Both followed the spirit of the TV show, but the movie was more visual. But that's nitpicking for another time. As for the movie itself, it gained a direct sequel known as Ghost in the Shell 2, Innocence, done by Production IAG. While keeping up with the spirit of which was the soul and which was the machine, it was not as good as the original, but again, that's nitpicking. However, it was just as visually stunning, or even more so. Production ID did a good job of that. In fact, some of the visuals are gorgeous and absolutely awesome. The TV show itself got a satisfying conclusion via a movie known as Solid State Society, but it left some questions up in the air. It left some fates wondering like where the major would go from there and all that, but again, it's nitpicking, and that's for another time. The focus here is how Hollywood can and shouldn't make a live-action Ghost in the Shell. So, what exactly are the problems of doing Ghost in the Shell as a live-action film here in the States? Well, first off, as I mentioned earlier, it's visually stunning. And the only way you can do it is with the green screen, and even just barely. And quite frankly, the whole green screen for everything is starting to get overused. Just because Sin City did it, all these other movies are starting to follow suit. Now, the reason Sin City did it is because Bastion City itself becomes a character in both the comic book and the movie. So it's kind of hard to find an actual city and make it a character, or if you're doing Ghost in the Shell. So of course it goes back to the green screen, but the green screen was already overused. So that's just a minor blurb. The major issue with Ghost in the Shell being turned into a live action American version is that if you take a look closely, Ghost in the Shell is as pro-Japanese propaganda as you can get without it sounding like it's an anti-World War II or whatever piece. I mean, the American Empire. If you see the episode of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex where Bato was hunting down this killer that removed skins, it didn't exactly paint us Americans in a flattering light. If you played the Ghost in the Shell video game and took a look at the text for the American Empire, you see it's not exactly flattering for us. It's stuff like that. Another issue is that Ghost in the Shell is one of those animes and manga that is so Japanese. Even though the characters are blonde, even though the characters' faces don't look like a stereotypical Japanese person, especially when you see anime like Spriggan or even Tetsuro from Akira, it's just, you can't put American actors in the roles of Bato and Motoko, especially Motoko. It would not look or feel entirely right. So how can they do it? Well, as much as I hate the idea of a live-action Ghost in the Shell, a live-action American Ghost in the Shell especially, the first thing you can do is, like I mentioned, the green screen, and if the green screen fails, shoot it all in Japan. And you can decorate a few of the buildings. Some of the buildings already look like they're from Ghost in the Shell's Newport City and all that stuff.
Film it there. Second, get an all Asian cast, especially for Motoko. You cannot have Motoko looking like she came straight from a New York family that wasn't a minority. She needs to be cast as you need to have an Asian or an Asian American as the character. More importantly, you need to cast her as Japanese. You're going to have some anime fans or some moviegoers who are tired of the stereotypical Hollywood rhetoric. Oh, they're Asian, they all look alike. Having that in mind when you're casting Motoko Kusanagi. Another way to make sure that the production and everything goes smoothly is if you work with the man himself. Ask him what was his thought process behind the Ghost in His Shell storyline. Ask him just exactly where did the soul end and the programming begin for his characters. Also, what might help is if you had people who are fans of the show work with the people who are in production. This way, you can get input on what the fans know would work and what the Hollywood rhetoric calls for what they think would work. And more importantly, don't make it a Terminator clone, or a Blade Runner clone. Sure, there are traces of inspiration of Blade Runner in modern cyberpunk, most notably Ghost in the Shell and Bubblegum Crisis, but it's not Blade Runner. Motoko is not trying to hunt down replicants. She's basically working in a secret organization. And don't make her a secret agent. She's not that either. These are steps that Hollywood can and should not take to make a successful live-action Ghost in the Shell. Should they make a live-action Ghost in the Shell? In my opinion, no. But that's just my opinion. And opinions are not going to stop them from doing this. The only thing positive I can say is that Steven Spielberg and his company are handling it, and with the way they handle Transformers, maybe, just maybe, this has a small chance of getting on the screen. One quick announcement is for B-Movie Bomb. I figured out how to do the picture, paste, and narration thing on Microsoft Filmmaker, but the problem is I can't put video on it. So until I can figure that out or work a way around it, Otaku Month's going to be delayed until September.